Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust, and Transparency. You guys have probably figured out by now each individual video I'm posting every single day, hopefully trying to get to the end of the year. I'm trying to give you some wisdom nuggets, my learning, something to take away, and not just creating for the sake of it. And I think I've been able to do that this far, and I think today's episode is going to be no different. If you're new here and to my channel, a lot of my background and expertise is in the world of development. I'm currently in the midst of running a couple of my own development sites, which has been extremely fun and always been my dream to do, and always on the lookout for more. But I want to also try to balance this. I also want to try to balance this channel between development and property investment. I think there's a lot of overlaps, and I'm obviously into and have been experienced in both. For today's episode, I actually want to tell you guys the story of how a consultant almost cost me over $100,000, and luckily I was able to pick it up. I was able to pick it up and make the changes before having to incur that cost, which is great, which is fantastic. And if you stick around by the end of the video, you're going to know what it is, how to avoid it, and so that hopefully you don't make the same mistake. And if you don't make the same mistake and I can save us both money, that's great. Before I dig into it, one thing I will say, YouTube tells me that like 70% of the people that watch my video, which isn't a lot because I don't get a whole heap of views, but of the couple hundred people that watch my videos, about 70% aren't subscribed. I have calculated out, I've done the numbers. I think I can maybe reach 2,500 by the end of the year if I keep up this trajectory. So if you're watching this, please hit subscribe, come back for more. I've been replying to comments. I've been creating videos on the questions that you guys ask. So if you need a question or anything, ask. And that's how I get you sub. Ask a question in the comments, and happy to put together a video to be able to address that particular property or development related question. Give me a few, if you're watching this, give me a few more development related questions, guys. I'm getting more heavily on the property investing, but the development is the stuff that I love doing. I've worked in design and development for about 10 years, so I feel like that's where a lot of my expertise lies as well. Now, okay, so let's jump into this particular project. So for a bit of context, this is a site I picked up. I have done the DA for, and this one will hopefully come into starting construction in the coming months. I won't say too much. You obviously have to follow me here and on my personal Instagram channel to see the progress and to see what happens with it. But I'll give you the context. So for this particular property, I haven't zoomed out and shown you all of it. Obviously, there's some delicate details on there. I don't really want to be sharing the address with everyone online, but and hopefully there's nowhere that you can tell the address of this particular property. But this particular property is a 3 townhouse development. It's got one unit at the front. It's got one unit at the front, and it's got 2 units down the back. Decent sized block. Slopes to street, which is perfect for development. And as we know, when doing the DA for this, I like to as well ask, my architect, who are the consultants that you usually use, who that you're friendly with, you've used them across other jobs, you know how they work, all those kinds of things. So for this particular job, I used an architect I'm comfortable, really good mates with, does exceptionally phenomenal work, really big fan of him. Now, the stormwater and drainage consultant that we use for this particular job had worked with the architect before, was one of the architect's recommendation. Established company, extremely well-sized, maybe a little bit too big. That was probably the downfall. But what I noticed I have done a phenomenal amount of research in this particular area, right? And going from not only looking at the DAs that have been approved, for not only driving past and looking the sites, but also visiting the completed townhouses in this particular area. That's a really good way to know what people are building, how they're building it, get a understanding for the competition, get an understanding for what how the level of finishes. You can just pick up so much information from open houses. And during my time, look, I knew what I wanted to do. Now, the engineer has designed a on-site OSD tank, on-site stormwater detention tank, 11 meters by 3 meters, 11 meters by 3 meters, and I believe the depth of it is about 0.5, so half a meter. Now, if you're wondering what an OSD tank is, essentially what the goal of it is to slow down the flow of water that your development or your site is putting onto the street. If you're watching this and you're a stormwater engineer, I apologize. I'm trying to sort of condense, obviously the meaning is, and a lot of people would be screaming and say, oh, it's this, this, and this. But so essentially the orange here marks stormwater. The stormwater on the driveway would run into the pits and then run down into the OSD tank, where it can store, in the event of a downpour or a lot of rain, it can store all this water in there and hold the water, and then the water can flow down here onto the street. That's the front boundary, and my street is just here on the left of the screen. And it can then flow into the street and the street's drainage at a more tolerable amount. Whereas if you didn't, and we had sort of those flash flood situations, then all the water from all the developments would flood onto the street, and that's how you get really big flash floods. So council obviously says when you are over a certain size, for this it was when you have a certain percentage of your site as hard stand, then you need the on-site detention. Why? If you have more hard stand, then the water runs down on the hard stand onto the street. So obviously we have, if those bigger sites that are causing that run onto the street have an OSD tank, it means that the water is captured in the OSD tank. That is a lot of volume, 11 meters by 3 meters by 500 mils. It's a big volume. That'll capture the water and then it will feed it gently onto the street so that we don't have the flash floods. So that is essentially why we need it. Now, what confused me, and in the DA process, I questioned them multiple times on this. I said, why do we need the OSD? Oh, we need it. I said, it doesn't make sense. Why do we need it? They kept back and saying, look, there's nothing we can do. It's unavoidable. We need it. We have to have it. I'm like, I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen an OSD tank done in any of the projects that I've been to, because obviously if you walk into a project and you see it on the screen, you'd see it, there on the driveway, you'd be like, shit, that's a big OSD tank. Maybe you guys won't, but I pay attention to that kind of shit. And I hadn't seen one. Anyway, we went back and forth. I was really arguing with it because I know that that's obviously extra cost. So I was like, I don't like it. But in my mind, I thought, look, let's get the DA in. Let's get the DA approved. And for those that know development, I can come back and mod it out. I can put in a mod application to get it removed. Now, it just so happens, put the DA in, council, got it approved, and then as I started that CC process, which is a construction certificate, which in New South Wales, after you do a DA, you need to do a construction certificate, which is just putting together all the construction documentation. I also tendered this out to a couple of builders, and the feedback as well from the builders confirmed my suspicions and said, look, why do you have an OSD tank? Why do you have an OSD tank? So a lot of builders, and when we were coding up this job, they came back to say, look, we're adding an additional price for the OSD tank, additional line item. Some included this price for over $100,000. Now, whether it is or whether it isn't, $1,000 in cost price doesn't matter, because that's what they're going to charge me. Now, that is more than 10% on top of the build price to put in this OSD. So obviously it's over $100,000, 3 townhouses, knocking them up, over $100,000 to build this OSD tank. And I thought, nah, that doesn't sit right with me. It's a extremely additional cost. So I trusted my gut. I trusted my experience. I said, instead of going down the CC route and just going, that's all right, build it, they'll come, I actually went to another consultant. I thought, why not get a second opinion? I called up this consultant. I know he had done other jobs in the area. I know he was local. Pretty much, I think he's either a one-man band or is a smaller sized office, maybe a couple of people. I'm not too sure, but a lot smaller. And I said to him, I called him up and I said, hey, mate, look, this is the situation. I just want to get your opinion on this. Are you able to review it? I can send you everything and I will happily pay you for your time to review it. Because at the end of the day, it's only going to cost him, even if he charges me $150, $200, $250, I'd rather a couple of hours of work, peace of mind that I need to have this. And what he said was in his review, he said, look, David, I've reviewed the plans. I can confirm that you don't actually need it, and these are the reasons why. And what I had sort of unraveled and uncovered is the original stormwater designer, engineer that designed this. I think they do a lot of work in particular councils where OSD is needed. And I think they went for the default lazy option and they said, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to design. And they put it in there as default, and they didn't dig into the nuts and bolts of this particular council, of what you need, of the council's stormwater and drainage design requirements. I don't think they took that time, whether that was an oversight, whether that was too busy, too rushed, I'm not too sure. I asked again as well after DA design. It was really hard to get an answer out of these guys. I was calling. Anyway, turns out this new stormwater designer came through and said, look, we don't need it, and this is why. And he showed me the proof, and I thought, wow, not only will you get the fee to do the construction certificate drainage design on this job, I will also use you for every project now coming forward. Because he said, I'll review it for free. That's the type of guy I am, and I'll let you know. And if we can get rid of it, get rid of it. He said he reviewed it for free. He said we can get rid of it. Showed me how. I said perfect. I needed to pay for CC design anyway. And the good thing about this is with a quick design change, I was able to put a mod back into council and say, council, look, we actually want to remove this. This is why we don't need it. X, Y, Z. And then obviously the timing works is that by the time you finish the CC, by the time you do your finance application, all that kind of stuff, you get the approval for this, you slide in the new plans of not needing the OSD tank, and then you're able to move forward with it. So to me, and if you're listening to this and you're looking to do development or you're looking to get into this stage, is just to make sure that those consultants, always push back, always ask why, always do your research from your market and know what other people are building. I hadn't seen this on other DAs, so that was my first red flag. The builders came through and confirmed that when they were tendering the job. And my probably other feedback would be always go with the consultant that is, if you can get one that is local to that area, that would mean that they know the councils better rather than the bigger guys that maybe specialise across a lot of councils. They're not always the best, which is an example here of how I believe that they aren't. And always, if you have a gut instinct, I would say always trust it. To get a second set of eyes, a second set of opinions, by the time that consultant or that other person charges you a couple of $100, I would rather that than sleep at night. In the case of this particular circumstance, I was able to save myself, $100,000 on a build price for this particular job and for this particular OSD of not needing to have it, rather than just putting it in and being lazy and just accepting what the particular stormwater consultant had designed. Now, if I hadn't done my research, I wouldn't have known to push back on that. So do the research, and then if you think it's strange, pay to get that second opinion so that you don't just take that cost. But that would be my lesson in learning for today's episode. I hope you got good value from it. If you've got any development-based questions, really happy to help out. And hopefully, if it's something like this, we can save your project a lot of money. But let me know your thoughts, questions in the comments section. As always, guys, I'll see you tomorrow.